This area is so under threat. Mining leases going up, the destruction of thousands of years of Aboriginal heritage. If all things proceed as planned, this forest that we're sitting in now won't be here by the end of summer. Tasmania is an island off the bottom of Australia, quite a long way from anywhere.
Sometimes they don't even put us on the map.
Tarkine's more than 1 million acres of wild country, including the biggest temperate rainforests in Australia. River systems largely unsullied by humanity. A wild coastline across which blows the cleanest air on the planet. There is no other place like it in the world.
It's like being in fairyland. It's just magnificent, these great big gnarly old trees with growths on the side and fungus growing off them. You just go, wow, this is just so amazing, you know.
It's over 60 million years old. You know, the trees that you see standing around you, we can see as fossils at Antarctica.
It's a stronghold for a whole suite of rare and endangered wildlife. And it's got this Aboriginal heritage of the Tarkine people.
Hide there with spears?
Yeah, we'll hide here with spears and clubs and wait for the seals to come up and lay on the rocks.
This area is so under threat. Mining leases going up, the destruction of thousands of years of Aboriginal heritage, and forests like these being felled. If all things proceed as planned, this forest that we're sitting in now won't be here by the end of summer.
To see our forest industry reborn, that's our plan. Clearly, environmental protesters have a different view.
Just days out from the state election, a crowd of more than 1,000 people has rallied on Hobart's Parliament lawns calling for protection of the Tarkine.
When you have a state government dedicated to the resource extraction side of things, and then you have the grassroots uprising of people who have got a hell of a lot of resilience, intelligence, creativity, there's inevitably going to be a clash of epic proportions. Yeah, good, thanks guys. Good to see you again. Come on in. Take a seat. Okay, so Phil, what we might do is we might just get your script sorted. I'm Nicole Anderson. I'm a rural doctor in the town of Smithton in the northwest of Tasmania. We have a medical service which services 8,000 people 24/7. Your day is basically just drilled out in 10-minute consultation after 10-minute consultation, although my consultations average 12.5 minutes. So yes, I run behind like a typical doctor runs behind. When I came to Tasmania in 2004 and started work up here in Smithton in 2005, this northwest area was a big mystery. And what that gave me was a lot of inspiration to get out here, to get myself into this landscape. Running is a great way to learn about a place for me because I don't have much time and I love to cover big distances. I'm certainly not an advanced athlete. I'm slow as anything. I wouldn't say lazy up hills, but I pace myself. My biomechanics are pretty shot, so my strengths definitely lie in my ability to handle discomfort and exhaustion, to stay the distance and just to keep going no matter what. I love to run by myself, off track, off road, literally no trail to follow. I'm trying to think of a time where I didn't run by myself. No, can't think of any. No, always by myself. What I want to get out of being a runner is more of a connection to my environment. What is the Tarkine giving me? What is takayna giving me? It's reconnecting me as a human to a landscape. As human beings, when we're born, we're immediately wrapped in plastic, we're numbered, we're branded. There's something in me that wants to break out of that unnatural system. It's teaching me to be a true human, because a true human is not what 200 years of industrial civilization has produced. A true human goes back 200,000 years more, 2 million years. Human beings are designed in a way we can run. We can run long distances and we can run in the heat of the day. We've got a chest structure with our clavicles. It gives us that crucial ability to breathe heavily, long periods of time for endurance. When people go through a rainforest, they're breathing in fresh air, they're breathing in fungi spores, fern spores, particles. Your body and your mind is processing that information and you feel better because you're in a natural environment which we have evolved in for a couple of million years. We've only been in the Industrial Revolution for a couple of centuries. And so what we have is a very artificial system which we see as normal in our modern society, when in reality we are still part of forests. Genetically, physically, biochemically, emotionally and spiritually, we are connected to natural landscapes. And being mostly alone out in the Tarkine has left me a lot of time to discover, to learn and re-establish that relationship. And so the Tarkine has given me back my sense of identity, my sense of self, who I am and what I could be. And then to find that this area, which was starting to really grab my heart, it was so under threat and being destroyed for what?
The Tarkine faces an array of threats, and unfortunately they've been going on for many years. Mining, and open cut mining of all things, which we know is the most damaging type of mining, that will not be fixed in our lifetimes, our kids' lifetimes, their great-grandkids' lifetimes. That will not be fixed. Permanent scarring on the world. 90% of the Tarkine is under mining tenure right now. The coastline, such an important cultural area of the Tarkine. People bombing down there in four-wheel drives all over Aboriginal history and trashing the landscape.
The coast is home to burial sites, hut remains and shell middens.
Because people don't understand how to read that heritage, they don't have a value for it. As a community, there's grave concerns over the government willfully allowing four-wheel drives to enter into that region without any control practices that protect that heritage and that story that belongs to this island.
Today, the Bob Brown Foundation held a protest to make the Tarkine a World Heritage Protected Site and return the land to its traditional owners.
How great it would be if Aboriginal rangers were on that land protecting it.
But the Premier says it's not a priority for his government.
One of the stereotypes that we deal with here in Tasmania is that there actually is no real Tasmanian Aboriginal people left. The Tarkine is significant because it's uninterrupted. So it is a true physical connection to what was and our ability to then continue culture. It's about the future.
This was a forest just a few months ago. This coop, the whole area that's to be logged here is 40 hectares or about 100 acres. In the Tarkine, there's currently 159 coops targeted for clearfall logging. The loggers drive a road into the wilderness, then they clear cut it, cut everything down. Having removed the logs they want, firebomb it, and that eliminates the whole of the native ecosystem. The reason for the firebombing is to create a heat so intense that nothing native can survive, so it won't compete with the artificial plantation they're going to replace this with. End of ecosystem, end of these giants of the forest. Every morning we wake up to less forests on the planet than ever before in human history. It's high time. This destructive industry was made part of history. And a very good place to start that process is right here in the Tarkine. Hey Lisa!
Yeah.
How are you going up there?
Yeah, good. How's the river?
Fantastic. How long have you been up there this time?
I came up on Thursday.
Did you?
So this is my third week. Yeah,
Ah.
I've been back and forthing a bit.
Listen, thanks for being up there. You know, I know that if 25 million Australians knew you were there, the great bulk of them would be supporting you totally.
It's pretty special to be able to be here. I've been pretty overwhelmed with support from people, and it's been really nice because it does get hard sometimes.
Yeah.
The more time that I've spent out here, the more emotionally attached I get to this forest. It's only going to get harder if they do decide to come in and start destroying everything.
Big criticism, isn't it, of environmentalists that we're emotional.
Yeah.
As if you can still be a human being without it.
Yeah.
You've got a basket up there, haven't you?
Yeah, there's just a bag down the bottom you can put stuff in.
Oh, can I? I'll do that then. All right, there you go. A week's reading and half an afternoon's fruit.
Thank you.
Part warrior, part man of peace. Bob Brown heard his calling in Tasmania's wilderness.
Bob Brown is the former leader of the Australian Greens, and he remains to me to be quite an inspirational person.
The fight for the Tarkine is not over.
He's devoted his life to campaigning to save these special places.
I often have people say, oh, who is the next Bob Brown? And I think there isn't another Bob Brown.
I came to Tasmania as a young locum, that means temporary doctor. The very weekend I drove onto this island off the ferry and into the mountains, I was galvanised by the beauty of Tasmania. In fact, I sent my parents a card saying, "Dear Mum and Dad, I am home." Well, I was a pretty pent-up young fellow. You see, I happened to be a Presbyterian and gay at the same time, and those two things don't mix very well. The criminal penalties for homosexuality were 20 years in jail, and I was the son of a policeman to boot. I was internally hemorrhaging a bit, and I found in nature a great ease. It doesn't try to hone us all down to one particular description. It celebrates variety. In 1976, a forester in Launceston, Paul Smith, asked me if I'd raft with him down the Franklin River. It was 10 days of canyons, waterfalls, sea eagles floating in the gorges, remarkable wildness. Pretty quick, they announced this 100-metre high rock-filled dam, the biggest in the southern hemisphere, and I spent the next 7 years as a campaigner for the Franklin River.
This is a natural and a national heritage area. It belongs to Tasmania, of the future.
There we were, this huge campaign going on in Australia. 20,000 people out saying save the Franklin in Little Hobart.
As the marches, led by the director of the Wilderness Society, Dr. Bob Brown.
15,000 out in Melbourne and similar numbers in Sydney and Canberra and Adelaide. At the end of the Franklin campaign, 500 of us went to jail.
If you do not move, you will be arrested.
I spent Christmas and New Year of 1982-3 in jail, and the day after I came out was elected into the Parliament. And the Franklin became a key to World Heritage for the Tasmanian wilderness, but a vital component was missing: the Tarkine. One government leader of the day said, there'll never be a national park in the Tarkine while there's a chance of 2 cents worth of tin being got out of it.
The environmental significance of that area has been grossly overstated for 11 months.
The mining mentality, the logging mentality, dig it up, cut it down, damn it, was still rampant. It's changing now, but that old mindset sticks.
But our next victim took 300 years to grow and took 20 minutes to lay him down the ground.
Well, Tasmania has a long history of environmentalist activism versus destructive extractive industry. It's often very divided and very polarised. If you express anything that could be greeny or otherwise, you could be subject to significant intimidation and threats.
We've had a few visits from locals, some friendly, some unfriendly.
It's almost like you're behind enemy lines sometimes, being a conservationist in Tasmania.
You don't need to do this. No, mate. Look, we're not looking to fight, mate.
You f***ing dogs have caused me that much f***ing money.
I have had a few people lose their temper. I have had a few shotguns out of windows, in fact a few shots over the head. I have been beaten up a few times. We can't decide the future of the world simply by being angry and acting out of impulse. Lose your temper, you can very well end up losing the argument.
I see a lot of activist burnout, but Bob's not one of those. This guy's still going strong. I look at his endurance in the political scene and his enduring optimism. What has he got? What has he got that I want that,
There's Nicole, many decades younger than me, also a young doctor, also sees wildness as being an elixir of life. So she'd become a campaigner for wildness.
I mean, I'm not a person who chains herself to trees or anything like that, but I suppose if you're doing stuff to help activists, you're definitely an activist yourself.
In Tasmania, we have a very bad practice here on behalf of the government that things are very secretive about what goes on in the logging industry. You have many, many, many gates out there that lock off 20, 30 kilometres of roads. Behind those locked gates, logging is going on without anyone being able to see it. It's public lands. We should have a right to know what's going on with those lands. So we needed a scout in the Tarkine.
There's actually already a forestry road that comes in off here. Already a clear fell area in this region. Then there's actually tape. One of them was 16K.
When I'd be asking Nicole about, how long would it take for us to walk in, she'd be giving me the details, how long it took her to run in. And through time, I was like, what do you mean you're running? And she's like, I'll just go out for a run. Nicole is a scout, but she's a running scout.
So when I go out for a run, I feel a responsibility to use whatever skills and talents I have. Maybe I have the choice of running through 60 Ks of beautiful rainforest and getting all those feel-good feelings. But sometimes I think, no, I think my time and my energy might be better served if I go for a 50K run through forestry operations. And just have a look.
I'll be in touch with Nicole and say, Forestry Tasmania has this coup planned. Can you go and check it out? Can you document it, take some photos, understand more about it, access points for us to be able to take people in there? Can you give us any sort of information that you can for the campaign?
So when I go out for a 30 or 50k run amongst forestry operations, what I'm looking for from an ecological perspective is what's going on here. Who's who in the zoo? What are the good things about this forestry operation? What are the bad things that I'm seeing about this forestry operation? We've heard that this fairly remote bit of rainforest has been logged. Oh, f***. This was an area I knew very well, and now it is virtually unrecognisable.
Look, there's people out there in wild nature all the time doing things for their own personal gain. Nicole's taking it that step further by actually giving back to society and documenting what's threatened out there.
So, I know I'm taking pictures of shit, but that's the scat of a Tasmanian devil, a listed endangered animal. Big chunks of Eucalyptus obliqua. That's just going to be incinerated. Looking at the size of these blackened stumps, these trees are 500 years old. They're clear-felled, horizon to horizon, and all I can see within this is weeds. I'm 20 kilometres behind a locked gate. The public does not see this.
If you're not going to stand up for those forests, they're just going to fall without anyone knowing about them. We see it as our role to get in there on the front lines and say, these forests need to be kept intact.
When the back is against the wall and you have places of exceptional value about to get the chop, people will put their bodies on the line and occupy these forests.
Logging was imminent, so I came out here one night and set this up, and that was 3 weeks ago. We'll stay until we're forcibly removed.
In your right mind, is there any way that they can get your arm out of this?
There's no way they can get in.
This could be saved. This old growth forest could be saved.
You can see over there the blue flagging tape. Well, that blue tape means that's the edge of this particular logging coupe. Before they cut down the trees, somebody comes through and just marks out the parameters which they can go to, and then the contractor just moves in and just flattens the lot, really. I was intrigued by this other tree also. They've left it standing despite its size. Well, this tree is a Eucalyptus obliqua. It's actually considered a habitat tree because of the hollows that are formed. The forestry people like to congratulate themselves for being so sustainable by leaving trees such as this, which are identified as habitat trees, but the reality, the grim reality is that this tree is now so exposed to the environment because of the clear fill around it that it's just so prone now to falling over. This is why it's important to have people who can come in and actually document this destruction. So then that can be contrasted with the spin that comes from the state government when they say this is sustainable timber harvesting. Like, how the f*** is this sustainable, for God's sake?
Sawmilling's an intensely satisfying business, turning predominantly plantation timbers at the end of the day into homes. Some of it we sell straight out as raw timber, and a lot of it we add value to it by drying it and reprocessing it through moulding machines. Timber is an extraordinary product. It's something that, provided you do it in the right way, is a very sustainable business, because you can plant a tree, build your house out of it, you can create furniture out of it, you can heat your home by using the scraps for firewood, and you can regrow a tree and do that in your lifetime. But that's quite different and not to be used as an argument to justify native forest logging. A lot of people spuriously use the argument that somehow forestry in Tasmania is sustainable, but the native forest sector is not. It relies on public subsidies well over $1 billion in the last 20 years in Tasmania alone, just thrown away, torn up, given to the native forest industry. To go into a native forest, particularly rainforests in Tasmania, and to clear fall them and wood chip them is the ultimate obscenity and the ultimate act of stupidity and economic vandalism. You're reducing one of the most valuable resources, if you like, as far as timber goes on the planet, into the lowest common undifferentiated denominator that ends up as a cardboard box or a bit of toilet paper. It's totally insane.
Last year, cutting forests like this, Forestry Tasmania lost $67 million.
We have quite enough national parks, we have quite enough locked up forests already. In fact, in an important respect, we have too much locked up forest.
The logging industry has such a powerful lobby on weak-spined politicians that it's able to say, if you don't subsidise this with taxpayers' money, we'll go away and you'll lose jobs. In an industry that has less than 1% of the jobs in Tasmania, and still they swallow it.
The Liberals say locking up the area will cost thousands of jobs.
We are not of a mind, nor do we have any policy intent to lock up the Tarkine.
The problem in this country, and I don't know if it's the same in yours, short-term government. They just want to be elected. Oh, I'm frightened. I'm frightened because you guys have got Trump. I don't know what his bloody agenda is. Is my longer than the bloke in Korea. I feel sorry for you guys there. But that could happen here because I'm not going to vote for someone who's going to kick me out and call me a redneck. People have got to work, people have got to eat. You talk about the timber industry. We want the timber industry. Let's just do it right, We want these industries. So I'm hopeful. We're all hopeful. Am I confident? I can see us going down your road, and I think that's bloody dangerous.
So the conflict is between people trying to make a living from the forest and maintain what they've been doing for hundreds of years, and also people trying to maintain what they believe is sustainable and old-growth forest.
Have you been into a clear fell?
Clear fell, yes, I have, yep.
What does a clear fell look like to you?
To me, a clear fell looks like land that has been logged heavily. I think there's a lot gained from that industry. The old growth will never be the old growth it always was, but the sustainable timber industry will forever be there, and the way they're doing it well.
So what's this got to do with your clothing company?
Absolutely all. Yeah, I reckon I'm done with this.
You're just trying to lock the place up.
Yeah. We're making a film about this place, and we want to understand what both points of view are. We've talked to a bunch of greenies, and we're interested in the other side.
What is the other side, though, mate? What is your opinion on the other side? Are you one of these blokes who wants to run through the forest? Yeah.
I think that the forests are I think that there is something that's really special about untouched forests.
Have you ever had to live in a small community and have no job?
No, I haven't.
All right, we're done here. It's really important that we don't view the whole protection of the Tarkine or protection of any special place as a war, because wars have winners and wars have losers. And that's not the situation we want here. We want a situation where everyone wins. Taking steps forward wherever we can to find that sustainable middle ground, to help them to get into other industries and live happier lives, as part of the process of protecting this area is something that can't be ignored. It's not just about the Tarkine, it's not just about the Northwest Wilderness, it's about the people that have lived there for generations as well. It's got to be a big group effort.
If you wrap me in it and say you're a Tarkiner too now, I'll look after it because I'm here.
A lot of the time, people wanting to save this place are locals, and indeed Aboriginal people. If anyone has a right to say what happens to these forests, it should be those who have had the longest connection and intimate knowledge of the land.
On this island, there's a real kind of appreciation for the last 200 years and the value of the heritage of the last 200 years. When there's over 60,000 years worth of human occupation, without access to places like the Tarkine and without protecting the resources and the heritage that's within that landscape, that also inhibits our ability to continue culture. It's almost like we're being stopped again. The relationship between Aboriginal people and Europeans was never good, and it just got worse and worse. Across Tasmania there was mass killings, where people felt that Tasmanian Aboriginal people were less than animals. So to go out on a hunting expedition to shoot Aboriginal people was no different than going hunting possums, or hunting kangaroos. Up here on the northwest coast actually had a bounty on Aboriginal people's bones and heads. They didn't see us as human. So most Tasmanian Aboriginal people today are direct descendants of those families and those people that actually survived that process of near genocide. Every week you could be asked, well, what percentage Aboriginal are you? All of me is Aboriginal. And my Aboriginal, my cultural identity is not derived by the colour of my skin or the way I look. That is derived from the environment and the family and the community that I've grown up in and the connection that we have with our culture and our land. But as a young Tasmanian Aboriginal person, without the ability to express that or understand that, that can cause an identity crisis, which can be devastating in the long run. We try to counter that kind of cultural crisis with our young'uns by making sure they're really strong on culture and that they are given lots of knowledge and understanding of who their families are and how they are connected to country.
All the stuff that's on this country is not written in the history books. The energy's not, the spiritual connection's not. You won't find it in any books. That's why you've got to go and sit on country. Sit around the fire, walk in these sacred places. Yes. These are very culturally spiritual places they are. We still feel the energy. The energy's still alive. I used to be very angry about what happened to my people in this country. It was nearly genocide. Nowadays I don't get so angry. There's no sense in being angry because you're only putting out bad energy and bad spirits, so, it's about the good spirit and the good energy. That's why I became an educator. Teach people, teach my community, teach other people. Everybody right across the board, because these sacred sites are here for everybody in the long run. But they're our sacred sites and we're the ones that are going to protect them.
Today is a celebration, a time when we are now assuming the rightful place as custodians of this area known as King's Run. This is about acknowledging a journey of our old people. They occupied the takayna, hunting and gathering their cultural foods and celebrating their part of this rugged coastline. Today we celebrate, tomorrow we manage, and we will move forward as a united group that we are. All done!
Well, we're human beings. We come from a wild planet. To go back into wildness is to find ourselves. There's no scientist can reproduce it. There's no great composer that can match it. There's no great writer that can describe it. The experience of being in the wilds is an extraordinary, unique part of finding out who we are.
I want people to connect to nature again, to see these places as having intrinsic value of their own worth just by being here, not because of some economic dollar value. And then to realise just the tenuous hold these places have. This forest that we're sitting in now won't be here by the end of summer. It took me a long time to get my bearings, but I have found the tree that we filmed with me in front of it. It's this one here. You can still see some of the mosses on it. I'm not sure if I'm doing a very good job of videoing this. There we are.
We're born onto this planet and we go back into it. I'm getting towards the end of my life, and seeing young people like Nicole is wonderful. In the spirit of Nicole is the saving of the Tarkine.
It becomes a moral responsibility. I really don't believe we're given things, physical things, attributes, skills, talents. I don't believe we're given these things just to serve our own ego. Running is something that's part of me, and I might not have it forever, but I've got to use that to the best of my ability to serve, I believe, what gave it to me in the first place.